For Unit 5, Objective 2, we're looking at the concepts of variance and standard deviation. Now, if you're studying these concepts in your AP Stats class or a Stats and Probability class, you'd get a whole lot deeper into what these concepts mean. But for us, in Math 3, we're going to keep it as simple as we can, and we're just going to say these concepts are measures of dispersion, or how spread apart the data is within any given data set. Now, like everything else in stats, there's always a story that goes into what the data is all about. So I pulled this problem from one of my old college stats books. It's all about a psychology experiment with eight college students. Each student was subjected to a previously unknown behavior, and the person recorded the number of trials or practices that that student needed in order to perfect or learn the behavior. So, for instance, this first piece of data means the first student had to practice the behavior 12 times before he or she learned it. And here's the data representing all 8 students that were in the experiment. Now, we want to know the variance and the standard deviation of these 8 recordings, these 8 students. So, first thing you have to do is you have to find the average or the mean of all the behavior. Now, you've been doing that for years. All the average is, or the mean, is adding up all the data. So add up all the individual data points, and you get 88. And the mean is simply the sum of all the data points divided by the number of pieces of data. There were 8 pieces of data, or 8 college students, and that's the arithmetic mean. That's the X bar. So we're going to put this 11 in every single place in this column. Now you can tell by the column heading, the next thing we do is for each data point, we find the difference between that data point, the X, and the mean. So on this one, 12 minus 11, that's 1. 13 minus 11, 2. Now this one is going to be a negative, so 8 minus 11, negative 3, negative 5, negative 1, positive 3, and 2, and 1. Now you can tell by this column heading, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to square every one of these differences that you discovered. The only difference between this column and that column is the square. So 1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 4, negative 3 squared, you're going to lose the negative because it becomes positive 9, 25, 1, 9, 4, 1. Now the next thing you're going to do is you're going to sum this column. This last column, you're going to get the sum of all those numbers. So when we do that, it's 54. Now we're going to actually start working on the variance and the standard deviation. There's a formula that's in your worksheets, and it's probably in your notes too, that the variance is the sum of all the x minus x bar squareds. So that all they're telling you to do is reference this number right here and then divide that by the number of numbers. So it's 54 over 8 divided by 8 equals 6.75. And now the next thing is, once you have found the variance, now it's time for the standard deviation. And you can tell the only two the only thing that's different between these two symbols is one has a square and the other one doesn't. So the standard deviation is simply going to be the square root of the variance, and that equals 2.60. And really that's it. From a viewpoint of Math 3, all we're doing is we're looking at a set of data and we're asking what is the variance and what is the standard deviation of that data. And it's a very procedural concept. The procedure is fill out the chart and then use those numbers within the chart to help you find the variance and the standard deviation.